Welcome to the video. This time we're looking at the datasheet for the most famous Warhammer 40k character of all time, Lieutenant Titus. So this is the datasheet that you can play for him in game. I'm pretty sure now it's certain that he's not a Legends datasheet, so you will actually be able to play this guy in all normal games of 40k, and he might see some balance updates here and there. So yeah, let's get cracking with looking at it. I think there was definitely a temptation somewhere along the lines with them writing this data sheet to make him a lone operative and just make him an absolute like killer and have him just running around the battlefield like in the Space Marine game, chopping people up. But I think this is better, having him be an actual leader. You know, he's in the first Space Marine game, he was genuinely like a good leader for his squad. So that's cool. And they've given him a good data sheet here. Now he's only 70 points, which is a bargain. It's much cheaper than a normal Space Marine captain, or even some other leaders that you can take nowadays. So he's in the bargain bin there for sure. Like you just get, and you get a lot for your 70 points. Now his stats are very normal, but you will notice that he does have the 5th wound, so he is definitely confirmed by his stats to be a Primaris captain. He's restricted in title to lieutenant because of bureaucracy, I suppose, which is very Warhammer 40k. Now he has his heavy bolt pistol, it's fine, it's just a normal gun. And his chainsword, which is really cool. You don't see chainswords taken a lot, for the obvious reason that they're just worse than all the other datasheet options these days, and there's no points in the game anymore. So people normally would avoid taking chainswords. Lieutenant Titus model just only has that option, but here he is. He hits on 2s, 8 attacks. It's just fairly normal, but he does have anti-infantry 2+. So he's going to be chopping up everything from Terminators to Hormagaunts for the same efficiency, which is cool. It makes the weapon actually good. I do wonder if eventually they might roll this out to like all Astartes chainswords to like really make them, and maybe not anti-infantry 2+, but to make them more of a like anti-infantry specialist weapon. It'd be interesting to see where that goes. However, it may just stay on Titus for now. But either way, I looked for a way to give this guy dev wounds because that would obviously be a really good synergy with that anti-infantry 2+. It did not. I couldn't find one. If anyone can, let me know because they'll be pretty dangerous. In terms of these abilities, now 2 of these are fairly like, meh. He has Feel No Pain 5+, which is cool. He's got 5 wounds. He doesn't have an invuln, so this kind of helps him just be a little more durable. I think it makes him more sort of gritty and cool that way. It's a nice ability to have. It won't always come up, but when it does, you'll be glad to have it. And he's Honor the Chapter. So again, they've done this thing where they've given this ability the same name as like stratagems in other parts of the game, but whatever. Honor the Chapter on Titus's datasheet means that when he dies on a 2+, he can fight on death. Now that's fine. It's cool for like just getting that last gasp of attacks off if he goes down in melee. So it's not got the greatest attacks like I've said, but it's still worth having. You'd rather have him fight than not, because he's always going to chip some wounds through onto infantry, and with that AP one, you never know. You can really take someone out with his last gasp. But the main thing, I think the draw of this 70-point datasheet is the sustained hits 1 from Press the Attack. Now he gives it to his unit, so he gets it when he fights in melee, and also the rest of his squad get it in ranged and melee, because it's not specified either way. So that's really cool, because previously, like the basic Space Marine Codex hasn't had access to this kind of ability. You do get it in shooting through the, I think the Gladius, there's an enhancement in there that gives you it, but that's become like, I mean, you saw how strong that was. It's had to be nerfed like several times. It has some other things going on with that enhancement that make it so good, but just being able to have this guy and be able to slot him into generic sort of intercessor-sized units with sustained hits 1, it's great. So I think he offers a lot of diversity and new stuff for the Codex, despite it being such a bloated thing. Well, bloated in terms of its data sheets. I mean, there's so much stuff in that Codex. Now, how does he compare to the standard Lieutenant? Well, he's a little more pricey, and he can't take the same war gear options. The normal Lieutenant can take like a Power Fist, which obviously gives him higher quality attacks, as well as the fact that his abilities function totally differently. Can also get an invuln from other war gear choices. So, he's very different to the normal style of Lieutenant. So Titus, what he sort of does there really compared to the normal Lieutenant, it's just this sustains ability. The normal lieutenant gives lethals for his unit in the same way Titus gives sustained, but also has like a fallback shoot and charge ability as well, which Titus doesn't have. But sustained hits can be really, really good. Compared to like lethals, you always want to sort of think which one do you want. It's generally said that if you're going to be wounding on 4s or better, you want sustained hits. If you're going to be wounding on 5s or worse, you want the lethal hits. So you've got that trade-off there between Titus and the normal lieutenant. And I think there's definitely places that Titus shines over them. And we'll talk about the units in a bit. But one last thing to notice on this data sheet that I think is really good, he has the faction keyword Ultramarines. Now, for those that don't know, the way the Space Marine Codex works is you can only take one keyword, so faction keyword. So everyone has Adeptus Astartes, and then some units that are like special characters or specific stuff have a faction keyword. And in the competitive landscape, Ultramarines is really the only one that people take, sadly. They've just got so much more stuff, and Lieutenant Titus adds to that. So you might see lists with Calgar or Gilliman or any of the other Ultramarines, like keyword stuff that people really take. You might see them knocking around with Lieutenant Titus now. So it's quite good, really, and it makes the model like very playable, even in a competitive context. So we've got the list of stuff he can lead here. It's a lot of different things. It's quite good. It's kind of all the intercessor body stuff that he can jump in with. And I'm going to talk about the 2 units that I think he's best placed to lead. But I did want to give an honourable mention to Hellblasters. I think sustained hits on Hellblasters can be really dangerous. We see everyone under the sun running Azrael and Hellblasters because of how strong that is. So I think you end up with a sort of a want to maybe put Titus in with Hellblasters, but I genuinely think the normal lieutenant is better in Hellblasters because the lethal hits, like them threaten vehicles and monsters, they already do a good job versus infantry. And the fallback shoot and charge the lieutenant gives them is probably better than like what Titus gives. Maybe Titus will be seen with Hellblasters, but I think he might be better off with some more combat orientated units. So this is probably my first pick for Titus. Him and 5 assault intercessors. They're only 145 points, so they're a good like early game unit. And often, people run 5 assault intercessors on their own just for as a kind of a trading piece. But I think when you put Titus in there with all the stuff he gives them, the sustained hits and all his attacks, and the reroll wounds, which is really nice, that just becomes like a great unit that can genuinely like threaten anything with the right buffs. But mostly they're going to want to be chopping into enemy infantry, especially on objectives. So you've got, this is just some maths I had done. Titus with 5 assault intercessors, if they only take chain swords and they don't have any buffs, they've got, this is no oath and moment, this is no stratagems, this is just Titus and these 5 guys going in. They'll kill 18 gaunt sort of equivalent stuff in melee. Now that applies to sort of any toughness 3, 5 up save bodies. So they'll kill almost an entire swarm of stuff really, really easily. And that's just with their melee, so if they shoot their shots off as well, they'll kill a 20-man unit of gaunts, like, no problem. So really, really good there. Just that ability to like cleave those big, tough units out of the way, or those not tough units, but bulky units of infantry, and just clean all that OC off the objectives and get in there. And don't forget, if you've got the right sort of army and detachment for it, Gladius has that Honor the Chapter ability, which, synergizes with Titus's Datasheet ability, Honor the Chapter. It gives them Lance and +1 AP in the right doctrine. So that's really, really, really good because this unit would then just start chopping like vehicles, right, quite dangerously. They're all AP2 and all wounding on 5s, re-rolling with their stuff. So yeah, really, really cool. I think this might be a fun little trading piece to run in Ultramarines and replace maybe one of your captains and assault intercessors that people tend to run in that with this. With Titus and 5 Blade Guard veterans, he gives them they have a higher quality of attack. They're strength 5, AP2, 2 damage. So getting the sustained hits on those is really nice. And it'll just make them great into any kind of elite infantry that you're facing off against. People tend to run like chaplains, lieutenants, or judiciars with this squad, but I think Titus can totally throw his hat in the ring there to get in there with the Blade Guard. Now, the cool thing is they give reroll 1s to hit with their ability, so Titus can basically be hitting more than he's got number of attacks. And I think we did some more maths here. and they'll kill an entire unit of Tyranid warriors with absolutely no problem, even killing their like leaders. Just thought I'd do some bug maths for the name Space Marine 2. So yeah, really, really good there. It'll be a tough unit. It's a little pricey at 250 points for him and 6 guys, but really, really worth it. They'll just be tanky and they'll just sort of push up and be able to fight enemy elite infantry. Not the best into vehicles and monsters, unfortunately, but they do have a volume, so they might be able to finish off a wounded monster. So those 2 units, the Assault Intercessors with Titus and the Blade Guard Vets with Titus, I think are totally viable and are a fun way to run this new datasheet that they've given us. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you'd like. We're always trying to improve the content here. I'm really glad they actually didn't make Titus Legends when he came out, because I feel like they've done that to the Orcs and things like that with their cool characters they've got given. Same for the Sisters of Battle. It's just a real shame that they aren't willing to introduce these cool data sheets in. I'm glad they've done it with Titus. He's an icon. So we'll just have to see if they sort of reverse their decision on the Orcs. Maybe in the Codex they'll get, or some kind of new codex, they'll get some kind of bonus there. Same for Sisters of Battle. They might just finally kind of allow these fun and flavorful data sheets in the game. But thanks for watching. Bye.